Dun, 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 dun. So this is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster. The set is finished to set up for the space wedding of the early 2400s. The space wedding. And then they get transported to the distant future in the story. And wearing the North Face shirt, which kind of looks like the Critical Vitriol shirt, and or the Holo Vito shirt. Yes. The second season of Starship Locations: Strange Worlds will be based on the already previously published storybook, The Fallen Ones. Just a little bit of the other one. The only bit of the other one was actually included as a short trek on the end of the last one, the published 38th story. That one that just came out. Strange Worlds, here's season 1 book, just came out on Amazon with all of that changed. So there's two, it's the whole season was came to about 230 pages. So then there were 2 short treks on the end. The first short trek was sort of a retelling of Isolations 1 and 2. And well, actually it became just 1. And a slightly different version, but it was all sort of a simulation, kind of like that's how the story went. And then the next one kind of was 2, and they said like, okay, this other one is this one was about Riker, and the next short trek is about. They were tacked on the end. After the 230 pages, you get another 60 pages or so of 2 30-page stories, little short stories. Oh man. You get the other one is the only usable part of the Vita Cola story, the Maelstrom version of it, heavily changed. Basically, changed a bunch of characters around, made them into Star Trek characters, and had Wesley Crusher in there because he hinted at Wesley Crusher doing something really cool, and then didn't show it in the episodes. We're not going to go back and film those episodes, but that he did something cool in the other timeline when he's on the planet. Well, he thought he did anyway. He dreamt it. So he really didn't, but maybe later. Not in this one. Not in the new one. The new one is based on the Fallen One stories. Of course, since we're not actually associated with the blog that inspired it, to just give him credit and say like, okay, Jason Colavito's Ancient Aliens Reviews blog, but he didn't write it. He didn't write this. He wrote it. He put just the blog comments that were accumulated over the years that were selected those 2 stories. Mark's cards and I just decided that there was too much of a byline on those Fallen One stories and the other one. We're not going to pull them because they weren't asked to be pulled. That wasn't what happened. We didn't pull them. They're still there. You can still buy them. They're really cheap. They're like $2. Hardly worth bothering with pulling them. And you can buy the Fallen Ones and the Maelstrom Saga from the Starcrackers, even though they are not canon anymore, as of the other story. So yeah, don't need to worry about it. The Fallen Ones is a story about the space giants, Nephilim, that kind of thing. It also features Mark Clark's favorite, The Grave Robber from Space story, the blog that we both read years ago, in which this guy freaked out, Pulitzer guy, Scott Walter's friend from American Earth or acquaintance. They were going to exhume a grave, let's say. It freaked them out that Colavito reported on it in, I think, 2016 on his blog. And for a full 5-6 days leading into a couple other days, it seemed like days. It seems like weeks, but it was days. He kept telling everybody that's commenting is going to get sued for defamation and libel. Slander and libel, even though it wasn't talk. So it wasn't slander, it was libel. But it wasn't libel because the whole premise of the story was, were these two old guys going to go to a grave site and dig up a Native American grave looking for giants? And that's not libel, that's just their opinion. Were they going to do that? So, yeah, it's not. I guess they weren't, it turns out. Because one of the bloggers, or more than one of the bloggers, reported them to the park authorities where they were going to go to. And the minute they went there to do that, the park ranger told them to, no, you're not going to do that. You're going over there. It's Native American land. Have you seen that movie Poltergeist? No. I don't know what they said exactly, but they basically told them, get lost. But yeah, this whole thing. And then he goes on to this other guy's site called Andy White. He goes to complain over there to Andy White because they'd been acquaintances in Canada. So they'd been acquaintances. And so Andy White's put him on his blog. And he's still going on about the grave site and whatever on his blog. And then he changes the subject to his kids or whatever. Or the Canadian Mounties questioning them both. And then they change to talking about the sword, the fake Roman sword. And there were a lot of fake Roman swords because of that Oak Island series. And they put a lot of them out, including some novelty stuff that even appeared as close as Walmart and Target at that point. So there were, fake Roman swords were a big deal in 2016, 2017. And you could go and buy one. But this wasn't that. This was something online that one of them had sold for a lot of money. Turned out to be fake. But they're not going to have any real Roman swords in Nova Scotia. Come on. If there are any, they're colonials and brought over from colonial times. They're not going to be from ancient times. They're going to be from colonial times. If somebody went to a souvenir shop in Rome and dropped it off there. Anyway, so sort of like later stories on Galavito's channels where they have, James Dean's car parts or something. It's like, come on, no you don't. Yeah, because same idea. It's like, okay, the car part can't be from his car. It can't be. It's not possible. Because in the 50s, they wouldn't have saved the pieces of the car. Because in the 50s, the week that he died or whatever, they wouldn't have bothered to save him. He didn't become legendary until after he was dead. He's a legend afterward. Like 20 years later, then they were looking for pieces of his car. Harrah's got one, and some other people got one in Germany. And they got some car parts of other cars, not that though. The car door is off one of his race cars, so it's not actually the one that I saw up there. That was about the race car, not the one that crashed. But still, it was cool. That was in the museum. Let's see that one. Car door. James Dean. Yeah, different story, but they've been following the Colavito blogs for years, and for Ancient Aliens and stuff. So the people that were keeping notes, copious notes of the thing, one of them was Kal Kat, and and maybe some blog stories. Took not the stories that he wrote, but the blog comments afterward. Not the stories that he wrote, the blog comments. So because it was the blog comments, he really didn't write them, he just published them. So he gets the credit for publishing them and putting up the comments. Because the comments got weird, and we made the comments into season 2 here. So what you're going to see is season 2. We don't need to do another book of adaptation of it, because there is one. It's adapted a Silly Trek-Cillian book in reverse. Done the book a couple of years ago now, and now we're going to do it in reverse and do a 7-episode season about that, which fits in perfectly with 3190 and Discovery. So fits in perfectly. So our characters here are on the set are dressed up in different outfits. Well, they painted them, and I'm sure somebody's gonna freak out. Oh my God, you painted your Playmates figures with car paints and stuff. Actually, with poster paint. But yeah, they're mine. It's like somebody complained about that. One of my more popular videos was a Veritex. I painted up a bunch of Skyfires that were all yellowed and nasty looking. I painted them up to look like they were like cool and used them in the movies, as rebels and stuff. But they're actually yellowed and awful, and they're practically falling apart. So when they were on film, they were like, they were falling apart. Some of them were falling apart during filming, which was funny. And the one that was the most expensive was during Cillian Stories. The one that was most expensive was the museum piece, supposedly a masterpiece, Rook Bartley fighter, which Miria had at one point, and took it out of the box just to put it on the stage really carefully, and have her like fight the bad guy on the planet. It was a flashback to the planet. They went to the Invid planet. Not Tyrol. It's the Invid planet. The Invid planet. Well, Optera, the little planet. And it immediately. I did not do anything with it. It just snapped. Legs snapped right off. Tush, tush, tush. And it just fell down dead. So there's this weird scene in, I think it's that first Shadow Chronicles story. First one that we were doing, the first Shadow sequel. Yeah, that happened there. Or the second one. It might have been the second one. And there was this weird scene where they break this Veritech. And we're like, oh my god, you broke that. Oh. We didn't intentionally break it. It just broke. So we had to write it in like, you know what? Alpha fighters are actually really crappy. Yeah, they do. And they break. Give me the old one again. They don't make them like they used to. No. Oh, the Masterpiece Veritech should not be museum pieces. That's ridiculous. For the price they are, that's ridiculous. I don't know why they didn't just like afterward. Well, now that the things have changed with Robotech, it's different. Now you can have. Now that the license, the license hold that Harmony Gold had expired in 2020, so they didn't renew it. So all of the Robotech Macross merchandise that was not sent over here after Macross Plus was sent over here and then stopped. All that stuff can now come over here. So we have Macross. You can get Macross 7 and Macross 2, and I think Macross 2 was released here briefly. But Macross 7, you can get Orgus. That's cool. It's like the 4th series no one ever watched. It doesn't end. It just comes, never ending. They didn't finish it. In Japan, Orgus. Super Dimension Cavalry Argos was a sequel to Order of the Southern. Kind of the sequel to Southern Cross. Really more than it was a sequel to Invid Invasion. Yeah. So, Orgus. So, yeah, now they, Studio New can put out their stuff. The Macross Delta, Macross Frontier, and then Delta can come out here. It seems Sony still owns the rights to the Robotech movies, but they haven't done a movie yet. And 10 years ago, Tobey Maguire was going to be in it somehow. Now I don't think he's involved. I think you'll probably see a Kal Kat Robotech parody movie before you see that. And we have a title. Just haven't written it. The Robotech, the Bioship Legacy. Transtech, the Bioship Legacy, because they're still in the Transtech universe. We'll see what that's about. But that might be later, after season 2 here. We'll see. We don't have a season 3 planned, really, but we could still come up with something. Like a movie might be cool. Starship Locations movie. That'd be neat. Have to come up with a script. We usually do. But we're not going to crib more stories from the old one. We thought that the Fallen Ones is a complete story. It's 7 volumes anyway. It's perfect. Let's just do it. It works anyway. So, yeah, Maelstrom Saga is no longer canon. The Tamarellian lady is no longer canon. Several of the Furka and Smee and several of the minor characters are not canon anymore. Not that we won't use them somewhere else, but they're just not canon anymore. Because we jumped the gun and wanted to do our own thing, and it was like, it didn't quite work. And went on to do that, and then we completely ignored it. Went on to do All Transformers Mush, in which we gave bylines to those writers as well, because we took their stories and adapted them as Transformers episodes. We gave them bylines. We're going to give Calavito byline in these episodes, but he did not have anything to do with writing these episodes, in the sense that he's not here, he's not involved, and we don't know him. We're just saying like, okay, we adapted the comments, not the actual blogs he's talking about, but the comments. And the comments are the comments go two ways. They're not copyrightable, and the author of comments in a blog is not responsible for what they say either. It goes both ways. So if Prize Hunter here acts goofy and says crazy libelous, nuts so things, it's not considered any libel or slander. It doesn't affect the author in any way, the person that wrote the blog. If somebody makes strange comments on my blog, it doesn't affect the blogger in any way. They can just cancel it, and they do. I rarely get trolls, but when I do, I just delete them usually. There's no point in feeding them. Other larger content creators, what's your creator, the bad word, on YouTube, much larger than mine, are freaked out by the trolls, but that's because, like Lindsay Ellis or something, but that's because they have millions of views and they don't have time to, I don't have anything like that, 50,000 views, not millions, and I don't have millions, so I can easily edit like one or two comments that come through, but imagine they get thousands of them a day, so there's no one there to edit them. So anyway, so if you want on the Transformer things, and they're fine, all good. They like the Transformer thing. Ew, I was corrected on one thing though. I got a character mixed up on one of my Transformer things. I thought that on the blog thing to the Rodimus Primal that he didn't actually talk to the guy from the Netflix show. Apparently he did, and later on he actually interviewed him. So yes, I did send a correction saying that, I didn't realize you actually were talking to him. I thought it was just some blogger that said he was like the guy, and he wasn't, like the mysterious fake Bob Forward from years ago. It was not him. No, it was him. And because his name was similar to DeSantis, I think that it's probably threw people off. Like myself. The Florida governor is not the same guy. The Florida dude. Not the same guy. It's different dude. And also, Mark's Cards wanted to make sure that it didn't seem as though we knew more than we did about the universe, the Calavito blogs and whatever, so that we don't attract the trolls who will show up from that other blog going, they change some of the names around and the situations and the stories so that it's not, the trolls don't show up, and so we don't get who the guy Prize Hunter is based on. We don't get him showing up and going, no, you don't want to make them mad. So yeah, it's a sci-fi fiction story set in the future. It just happens to have similar dialogue. I think it'll work, and actually don't need to do necessarily a thing. We don't need to do word for word either. Not like the last season. If you ad-lib, that's fine, as long as it covers what was being said. The scripts are printed out better, easier to read too. So I'll show you some of what's going on this page here. I'll turn that around there, and we begin production on Monday. We'll see you on the set of Starship location, Strange World Season 2. I said Chimera. Strange World Season 2, and Season 2 will probably be subtitled the whole thing. Fallen Ones. Season 2. Or maybe it'll be called Starship Discotheque, which is what it would be. The Fallen Ones. Yeah, so that'd be different. So it's Season 2, but it's calling it something else. And it just so happens, because Star Trek is following us, which they do, that right now they've done a hiatus for Star Trek Discovery, and are now doing Prodigy again, and they have referenced some Silly Trek stuff. They just did an episode where the kid takes the Kobayashi Maru test. I can't sing the girl's name off, but their name is Gwen. Of course her name is Gwen. How could I forget the name Gwen? She's from On Location. She's literally somebody from On Location in there. How could I? Anyway, but the other guy, Sal, was taking the Kobayashi Maru test on the Enterprise D bridge. And he pulled up the Cillian versions of Spock and Uhura and Odo and everybody. Just like you got an Odo-like guy here and Uhura-like person there. And the guys doing Prodigy, they know about ours stuff. So, just like with Netflix. But we don't know anything about any new Robotech, though. So what do they do? They did some books, comic books a while back. But they were odd. Yeah. So let's see. So here we have the wedding party. And it's not some mysterious thing as to wedding party. Last season we said that Tendi was taken. And there's her husband. It's not LaForge. It's Rutherford. Now she's Tendi as would appear in 20 years later. So she's 50 now. And it's gotta make sense. He is Rutherford LaForge. And they have Vince Mahoney and Crass, but the actors are an item, but actually they're not in the show. So they make a joke about that. Then we have the bride and bride, I guess, bride and bride. We have the twist wedding being like, oh, it's not dudes, it's two chicks. But yeah, they're not necessarily hot chicks, so it's not gross. But they were kind of an item. So who should be in the wedding? It should be these two. Yeah. And then we have we do have some of the O'Brien family on her side here. We have O'Brien/Kira family because we've established in this story it's Quark, but it's Nog. It's supposed to be Nog. We have him playing, because the whole Deep Space Nine thing with the Bashir thing, the kid and all that. I think we explained that before last season a couple times. They address it again. That Kiriyoshi O'Brien is actually the child of Kira and Bashir, but O'Brien adopted him. Yeah, that whole shuttle thing was just a duck blind to hide the fact that she got pregnant from the doctor who she was having an affair with. And it would have made Deep Space Nine far more interesting, actually, if they'd done that. Instead of the Odo stuff. That'd be like, so she's with a doctor. And then they could have set up like, and made like some drama with O'Brien and had like, because actually on the set, she was seeing Siddig Fadil, Nana Visitor, and they got married on the show and they had a kid, and they just wrote it out like, oh no, it's Odo and everything, and it made sense. That's why it really didn't make sense. It was really uncomfortable when Bashir was with Ezri Dax in the finale in the opening scene. It's like, no, not at all. No, it'd be Kira. So we have Bridge Returning, we have Critical Vitriol, and these guys, Koloth and Cyrano, back from the David Gerald characters. So at the end of the last here, and of course Shadow Dancer over there, and everybody else. Maybe more than a second. A little more than a second. All right, Odo. That didn't make sense. Odo and Kira, they had no chemistry at all. He was 20 years older than her. It didn't make sense at all. Now, Bashir and Kira makes more sense. So I made up this Bashir character, like, it's Kiriyoshi O'Brien, right? But he's clearly Julian Bashir's kid. He looks like Julian Bashir. It's clearly supposed to be the actor that the current Mr. Siddig's and Unanavidra's son. Then we have Molly, who is actually Bashir, but apparently, he fell over. It's okay. That's all right. Okay, so yeah, It's silly, Frank. It's funny. Also, in the end of the last episode, and in the novel version, it seems like at the end of the story, after the duress of the zapping of them in the other universe, that Koloth and Cyrano are chucked into a vortex and sent into their deaths, essentially, or back to their timeline or whatever. Sort of spoofing that scene in Discovery with the Guardian of Forever. But would they do that to Dax? Would Dax get in trouble for doing that? Oh, so where is she? It isn't addressed at all in season 2. But it is addressed in the sense that they find them. Because at the end of... Because the audience, they don't know what happened to them, but the audience does. At the end of season 1, 3190, they meet Q in the other continuum. And they're like, oh, Q and Q Jr. are there. They tell them, well, we can send you back to a place where you're still popular. And please send us back to a place where we're still popular. They get sent back to 2403, where they're still popular. And then they get pulled back to 3190 again. The opening moment. So yeah, with everyone else. So they are still popular. But yeah, so that version of I think that's Data's father. I think that's Sung. That's playing Sung there. It's playing Prize Hunter there. I redid everybody else, made it look more 31st century. 32nd century. Yeah. So, for the wedding. Somebody's going to complain. No, you painted your actions. I've got lots of these guys. I was one of those people that like went all over eBay back in the day, the eBay store. Got lots of Star Trek figures, boxes. One of those people that was hoarding them. And the Jetfire guy that was hoarding all the Jetfires that were kind of plasticky and moldy. Around 2002, that was me. Every Jetfire for like 2 years. Jetfire, Jetfire, Jetfire. And I had like 24 of them or 25. More than that, I had to put them back together. I had to reassemble most of them because they were a mess. But yeah. And the other Jetfire that was expensive was the engine, the engine robo too, the blue guy. But yeah, I have 2 of those. They're actually better built. I don't know why. I was talking about that earlier. Why don't they reissue with better plastic the Robotech figures in the right scale and put them out so that maybe Matchbox could make a deal with Hasbro, and because Hasbro has the technology to make Transformers and stuff, and Jetfires and Skyfires, re-release the Jetfires and all that because they already have the molds from Bandai and Takara, and they have the molds. And do the whole line again is the commemorative, but this time do Masterpiece that actually is Masterpiece. But your kids can play with it because it's sturdy. It won't break as much. Sturdy parts. And yeah, that's what they need to do. And also what they need to do is they need to re-release, Playmates needs to re-release all the Star Trek figures in the scale of the 90s versions of these toys. And because it needs to match. And then they can also do the Abrams ones, but in the scale of the 90s. Here, these little 5-inch ones. They need to be this scale, this size. Slightly improve the articulation, and the legs are more articulated than Star Wars figures, which is interesting. And G.I. Joes are more articulated than Star Wars figures. And yeah, they need to bring them back. Oh, they just fell down. So yeah, they need to re-release all these guys, and they can re-release modern versions. Just think of how many. You could have LaForge G1 Season 1, LaForge Season 7, near the end. LaForge from Generations, but actually articulated because the Generations one wasn't. LaForge from the other later movies with the right outfit. All of them like that. Commemorative crew versions of each crew. They need to do that on the little bridge set and everything. They make a lot of money. Yeah, generations later, they will want these. Yeah, and then do Discovery and Enterprise and all the new ones, Lower Decks and Prodigy, the new one, the Prodigy with Gwen from On Location, and then of course Tandy Sandra here also from On Location. Yeah. She wasn't green, but she probably could have been. No, she wasn't green. But yeah, it's clearly they knew, they met her at some point. They did. But yes, and they could have. I mean, this is American. It's famous. They could have. Anyway, so here we have some falling over figures, and we have some Par Beasts. Nyar, Par Beast kitties. Par Beast was in the Lego movie too. Lego Ninjago. Lego movie. No, Lego Ninjago movie. But here's another Par Beast. Actually not, but it looked like him a little bit. But my Par Beast was first by like 4 years before that movie. And here's Abra. Hi, Abra. Hi, Abra. Look at how cute this kitty is. Oh my goodness. There's Kadabra. There's Kadabra. There's Kadabra. There's the kitty. Anyway, so yeah, that's the end of that. Yeah, next, season 2. No, fix me. They need to bring back the Playmate stickers. They did it for Ninja Turtles. Why don't they do it here? That'd be awesome. And of course, yay, kitty. The magical kitty. The Unikitty. They literally made a Unikitty. I had to buy it. It was actually a spur-of-the-moment lucky purchase. Yar, Unikitty.